if you can understand how the network works, then you can have a conversation with somebody about what will happen if something's going on. And you'll also understand and appreciate more the difference between holding Bitcoin directly yourself versus delegating ownership of it to an ETF, or even more abstractly to a company that's investing in Bitcoin, and not being so surprised when things don't work out the way some influencer told you that it would, when invariably, they were wrong as well.
It's so interesting because I've been in Bitcoin now, in Bitcoin podcasting, almost 2 years. And I had so many people from treasury companies on, and I've never invested. And there's part of me that is like, I could have made so many more gains with, like, when I see some of the stocks and all of that. But I always think about, I went into Bitcoin to go out of the stock investing game because I came from stock investing, and I'm very happy that I'm no longer in this game, and I know all the risks and the things associated with stock investing, and I purposely went out of that, and so I no longer want into this game, even if there's more return, because I want to be saving in Bitcoin and not something else.
And lo and behold, the market became a weighing machine after it was a popularity machine, and you could see, right? It was like, I actually don't think that there was that much dishonesty that went into this. I think there was naivete, but it was ego-driven naivete, right? It was like, I as an influencer, and I'm so influential that if you put your money in with the company that I'm a spokesperson for, it'll be worth more than it would be in your own self-custody. And there's a harsh but valuable lesson to be learned there, both by people who follow the influencers, and a reality check, an ego check, a humility check for the influencers who were pushing these things.
It's another comparison with altcoins, because those were the most successful altcoins were those with the biggest influencers behind them.
Yeah.
And the same thing
what does
all
KOL
over again.
stand for? I keep getting invitations in my DMs to be a key something leader, but it's all influencers that these people are looking for. They're, to create what ultimately becomes, I don't even want to say what their intention is, but they create what ultimately becomes a pump and dump, because the enthusiasm comes in with people trusting these leaders, but then the reality weighs in, which is enthusiasm isn't value, right? And you need a business model by which you're going to create value if you're going to justify some value that's higher than the money that you take in. But I think a lot of these other treasury companies just thought they could rinse and repeat, and they didn't have the ideas, they didn't have the capital, they didn't have the sense of timing or innovation that strategy did. And so they weren't able, like Michael Saylor came and he squeezed out as much money as was available in the convertible bond market. So that strategy wasn't available to people who came afterwards. And then he squeezed out in all of these different preferred offerings the demand in the market for those. And so when someone comes with a smaller version of it and wants to do the same thing that's already been done and either succeeded or been squeezed to its last drop of value, that opportunity isn't there for them.
For me, this all is kind of just a medium term, kind of a hybrid thing where the TradFi is getting Bitcoinized in a way. Do you think this is now like a medium thing, and like what comes after that? Like what's next that companies are kind of getting into Bitcoin? I mean, obviously it is a good thing that companies are putting, instead of dollars, Bitcoin on the balance sheet, but all those like weird treasury companies came out of that.
Yeah, it's hard to know exactly what phase we're in and what's going to be the outcome of it. I think what we've seen in every previous cycle is Bitcoin starts to gain a whole bunch of momentum and excitement, and then all these Me Too players come in. They dilute the message. They draw in investors. They burst. They take Bitcoin down a little bit with them, and then the healing begins again. And then there's a new season. And that new season, begins with Bitcoin gradually building up and up and up and up again. And then the new breed of imitators who say Me Too show up. And so it's kind of hard to predict exactly what they are, but they look genuine to a lot of people. Like the altcoins with all this different functionality look genuine to a lot of people. The NFTs look genuine to a lot of people. The treasury companies look genuine to a lot of people. I think you had to be really educated and understanding of what Bitcoin is, why it was created, and how it works in order to really be able to differentiate between these things. And I think that's where, for some of us, yourself included, you could see that something wasn't clicking. This wasn't better than Bitcoin. And, you don't have to invest in everything. I think a lot of the speculators get wiped out in every one of these cycles, right? They buy a whole lot of some shitcoin, or they buy a whole lot of some NFT, or they buy a whole lot of some treasury company, and they don't have money left over for the next cycle. The people who obviously did get out in time and have money for the next cycle are the creators of these cycles, right? They're the ones who create the altcoins and dump before the dump, right? They dump during the pump. And I don't know if it's the same cast of characters or not as has been here in the past. It may be slightly different characters. There's not like one thing that's interesting is there haven't been that many of these treasury companies. It wasn't like there was trillions of dollars or hundreds of billions of dollars in treasury company valuations that went down. They didn't get that far, interestingly, before the stock market dealt them a lesson, right? It was like several months. Maybe Metaplanet was a fair bit longer, but Nakamoto didn't last all that long, and I'm not even remembering the names of them all. Semler Scientific, struggled to get something, but like they didn't have the kind of success that Strategy had. Strategy with a very long-term play and weathered a downturn and all these other things. So I mean, I don't provide financial advice, but I'm certainly a skeptic about everything that isn't Bitcoin and is trying to say I'm like Bitcoin, and even worse, I'm better than Bitcoin, right? These I'm better than Bitcoin stories don't have a lot of endurance to them. I put it that way, right? They're here today, gone tomorrow, or here this year, gone next year. They're not built to last for forever. They're actually, they're built with a pump in mind, right? Let's get all the influencers, let's get some marketing, let's get some promotion, and people come in. But without sustained, endless promotion, they end up being like Ponzi schemes in many cases. I don't mean illegal in the sense, but it's like they need new people to keep coming in. They don't hold their own value. One of the other things I try to tell people is it's not all or nothing. If you have $100,000 worth of investment, you can keep 50% in an ETF, and you can take 50% in self-custody. And you can start by taking $100 into self-custody and sit on it for a year and see, did it disappear on you? Did you lose it? Did you get scammed? Is it still there? Like whatever it takes to get you the comfort, but you got to start working, you got to start speaking that second language, even if it's only 1 hour a day, so that you actually start to adapt to the new world that this thing represents. If we ultimately had nobody holding Bitcoin in self-custody and all of it institutionally held, it wouldn't be Bitcoin. It would just be some other kind of security, like the commodity of gold is actually traded. And that's not been great for gold. Gold has all these limitations that prevent it from being a good money in a modern global economy with 8 billion participants spread out throughout the whole world. But it's also, it's inconceivable that it could be money because so many people hold it in an alternative version of it, that the use of it is very confused and clouded. And at the very least, people aren't able yet to hand each other ETF shares, so they can clearly see, if I've got $100,000 worth of ETF Bitcoin and I want to buy a $50,000 used car from you, I got to sell the ETF. I got to go to the bank. I got to get this, that, if I have Bitcoin, I can meet you in a parking lot and you can give me the keys and I can give you the Bitcoin and we're done.
You can give me the car keys. I can get the Bitcoin keys.
Yeah, we trade keys. Well, it should be your key. You shouldn't reuse keys that I have because I might have kept a copy. But you show up with your new keys, you share the public side of those keys with me, and I'll get you Bitcoin, and you'll give me the car keys, which I hope you haven't made a copy of.
Is there, yeah, is there a threshold that we need in order, like how many? I mean, we talk a lot about like how many nodes and how much we need there, but is there a threshold also like for how many people we need, or how much percentage of Bitcoin should be held by individuals in self custody in order for it to avoid being like bank coin or like not Bitcoin anymore?
Probably not. Like it's how ubiquitous, how widespread its use becomes. But already, there are a number of circular economies in the world, whether it's in Costa Rica or El Salvador or Madeira, and there's probably other, or Lugano, that you can get by literally just with Bitcoin, and that there are plenty of people who prefer to receive Bitcoin, and they're newcomers to the space. They've been indoctrinated or won over by the local community. And there's plenty of people, who, I don't think anyone makes a living off of this, but there's plenty of people zapping each other on Nostr, sending value back and forth. So there's already like, if you want to live a Bitcoin lifestyle and you're prepared to make the move to those countries, interesting that the analogy I was using now becomes a literal thing. If you want to move to those other countries and learn the language that you need to speak there, then you can actually exercise your Bitcoin lifestyle if you want to. And that'll keep happening and growing. I think that there's momentum behind that, even though some of these markets may at some point face some kind of setback, whether it's regulatory or value or keep people moving from one to another or leaving. But it doesn't have, like, Bitcoin doesn't need to take over the whole world to be valuable, as we've already seen.
The first thing that every Bitcoiner does, and the most important activity that every Bitcoiner keeps on doing, is buying Bitcoin. And I personally use Relay to buy and sometimes also spend or sell my Bitcoin. And there are two main reasons why I do so. The first one is it's Bitcoin only. They do not do any shit coins. They do not do any cryptos, any stocks, or anything else. This is a tool, an app that is fully focused only and solely on Bitcoin. The second one is self-custody. They give you the keys to your Bitcoin the moment you buy them. You never give them the control over your Bitcoin, and you don't have to trust them because you can verify that you and only you have the keys to your Bitcoin. There's no third-party risk. There's no freezing of your assets. There's no rug pulling. There's nothing of that. Download Relay, the app, on your phone, or go to relay.app on your browser and use code Robin to save fees and get cheaper Bitcoin. I want to tell you about something very special to me. It's called microseed. If you hold your Bitcoin in self-custody, and you should, you know how critical it is to secure your seed phrase. You should not have them on paper. You should not have them on anything else than titanium. With microseed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because microseed is not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today, and you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io.